All right, welcome to today's edition on AI Playbook. Pretty much the goal today is to ensure that we're able to dissect what it means to experience technology without borders. Pretty much, we're going to be looking at some couple of things. And at the end of the day, the goal is to ensure that you're motivated to be able to drive technology to help other people in achieving success. Now, looking at this from the perspective of what needs to be done today, this session actually will make sense for people who are willing to make impact in their society. So the goal of this very session is just to give you reasons and give you solutions that are available out there for anybody to be able to try and actually make sense out of it. So without further ado, let's dive into what we have. So pretty much, just quickly, just ensure that when you join the call, your mic is mute in order for us not to have background noise. And once that is done, of course, there will always be the recorded version for everybody to replay and be able to hear what I have to say again and again. So this is AI Playbook, and you can join the community. You can ask me questions. I think part of what I appreciate a lot are direct questions from people in one way or the other. Just think about it as to whatever roadblock you may have and you need clarity. Part of what I do is actually encourage people and give them the resources they need in order to learn some of these things. Okay, so when we talk about technology in today's digital age, right? Today's digital age, we have over 5 billion people who have access to the internet. And the cool thing with this is that it is enabling a lot of global connectivity. Now, the bottom line is, what are we able to do with some of this flexibility that we have? If we are having more people joining the tech ecosystem, what are we doing as individual, as group, as companies to ensure that we put ourselves in that best position to be able to make sense at the end of the day? And those are some of the conversations that we'll be looking at in the few slides that I have. So, but let's look at the agenda that we have. So, firstly, we're going to be looking at technology as a global equalizer. We're going to be looking at technology as a global equalizer. We're going to also be looking at bridging cultural divides, and we're going to be looking at solving global challenges. We're actually going to be looking at barriers that remain. So some of the challenges that you may face when you try out some of these technologies. So let's take a look at them one after the other. But before then, I want us to take a look at a story of a person whose name is Peter Justin. So he has a very fantastic story, which I want us to just pay attention and learn some things from him. We may be able to relate with the story, and some of us may not be able to, but the bottom line is a very fantastic story. So Peter actually is currently one of the forefronter when it comes to technology conversation. He currently he speaks at events. He more or less just help people technologically as well. All right, but he has a very funny story when he started on. So he found himself working at a flower farm. The flower farm was actually closer to their house. He called it a flower glass house. So pretty much what they do there is they more or less cultivate plants. They cultivate flowers in various ways. So along the way, he found it very interesting working there. But at some point, there were some critical challenges that he faced. So because it was a flower glass, they had to maintain some level of temperature, and the temperature oftentimes isn't conducive to always being as a human. So sometimes it may be hotter, So working in that kind of environment was very tedious. But guess what? They just kept on planting. They just kept on doing the work. Now, fast forward, he was then promoted to where they have their machine. So they sort of like have machines that usually in the warehouse that usually process some of these flowers. Now, while they have some of this flower being processed, of course, they need human to check whether those plants are good for the market or whether they need to just discontinue them. So he was very good at this, and he did it for like a while. But the story changed at some point. Now, where the story gets tricky is when the manager then approached him and told him that there has to be a change. And when he asked what was the issue, so it was expected that they are faster in what they are doing. But unfortunately, because they are human, they couldn't really do some of these tasks repeatedly as expected. And one thing about machine is that machine is very good at catching up with human when it comes to repetitive tasks. So it wasn't long that they then got another shade of machine that was now able to do that job very perfectly than what they are currently doing. Now, where am I heading to? Because of this development, Peter was actually then demoted. He was demoted back to the glass house where he used to actually cultivate the flowers. Now, that got him thinking, as to what are the possibilities for machines to actually take over some of these things that we do? Especially, what does it even take for an organization to adopt machine rather than men? The truth is that machines are designed to work optimally. So why we human can go on break, why we can go on break, machine won't go on break. Machine technically, we just keep getting the work done. So long as the parameters are checked. Maybe there's diesel, there's power, there's whatever parameters that needs to be in place. So long as those parameters are in place, machine will always work. So the moral of the story, or the conclusion of the story, was that Peter lost his job just because he couldn't do it better than the machine. And the bottom line right now is, for some of us, we may have experienced that. For some, we may not even be able to relate because our jobs are still relevant. But here's the thing. When it comes to machine and the way human work, machines are always created to make our life easy. So take, for instance, let's even think about it from when we used to have the post office. It was some people's job to take letter from point A to point B. It was some driver's job to ensure that those documents were passed through one channel or the other. But looking at things today, I just need to pick my phone. I just need to pick my phone up, and before you know, I'm already talking to someone else. Or I just need to pick my laptop, and within few seconds or few minutes, I've drafted the email, and the person on the other side, I've gotten the message. Now, initially, people used to manually deliver these things, but you can see how machines do these things perfectly. So this now leads us to one of the things, or some of the things, that we ought to be doing as people who really want to advance into this world of technology. It's not the right time to just be in silo or just keep quiet or not do anything. It is an avenue for us to just sit up and find ways to do things differently. Now, the first point I say we're going to talk about is technology as global equalizer. Now, how can you leverage on technology as a global equalizer. Now, the thing is, when we talk about technology, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about inclusivity. We're also talking about the ability for us to have opportunity to universally compete with others. Now, the truth is that when it comes to this part of Africa or this part of the world, technically, we are not really experiencing the potential of technology yet. And that's basically because we're just consumers. What we do all the time is we consume the technology infrastructure, we consume the technology, the intellectual property, we consume literally everything. Our research institutes are not equipped enough to be able to churn out solutions, research papers that are likely to break or interrupt or disrupt the internet space entirely. So pretty much we are just more or less consuming things coming from either the Asia or things coming from the West. But this really has to stop. This has to stop if really we want to be globally competitive. And here's the thing. We live in an era where we have access to literally everything. We have access to information. We have access to anything knowledgeable that can help us to acquire some of these things. And the cool thing about this is that just by going to google.com to search for certain information, we can more or less liberate ourselves from some of the bondage that we found ourselves so far. And aside that, we could also look at some of the advanced technology that we have now, like the AI prompts that are capable of actually, comparing prompts and giving us reliable or reasonable responses that can save us time. We have all of this data, we have all of these things at our fingertips. But the question is, how come? Or the question we have to ask ourselves as individuals is, why is it still that our productivity rate is still not measurable? Why is it that the level of things that we're able to do are still not substantial? Why are we not even noticeable? So those are some of the questions we should ask ourselves. Despite the fact that we have all of this technology at our fingertips, how come is it that we are unable to really make sense out of it? Access to education is actually one of it. We have learning management system flying almost everywhere. Right from inception, Instinct Hub has been offering free courses, and guess what? Yes, some people get to take and some people get to ignore. And the bottom line is that when it comes to technology, you cannot earn what you did not sow. While you can more or less think about technology, or making some of funding or funds everywhere else, when it comes to technology, when it comes to actually technology, you cannot eat where you do not sow. In other words, if you do not understand how the ecosystem works, it cannot be profitable to you. So why not just spend some time in understanding how some of these things work? Spend some time understanding how you can leverage on some of this technology. And when you do that, the advantage is that what you're going to be able to do would surpass an average person. And that's where the growth comes in. The moment you have some of these skills, the moment you're able to scale some of these things, you have possibilities that on a norm is not supposed to be open to you. And that's what this conversation is really all about. So ask yourself, or let's just ask ourselves some simple questions, which are, what are the things that we are doing with the resources that we have? Right now, like never before, we actually didn't have personalized learning. Now, personalized learning is actually making impact into the market. With the advancements of artificial intelligence, right now, there are tools that can allow you plan your academics, that can allow you plan and learn based on your pace. You can learn based on how you think. And the machine is able to assist you in various ways. And this is pretty much what we are talking about. right? So if you ask me, okay, what are the AI-driven platforms that can currently now you can learn from? One, Duolingo is one of them. We're also looking at uh, Brilliant platform is actually one of them, where you can learn STEM subjects. You can learn about the computational science and stuffs like that. So you can look at some of these things. And please, I would like to also mention that I am not here to just tell you things to make you feel just motivated. It is also important that you take notes out of all the things I am mentioning, so that you can reference them later as you would need them. But if you just listen to me, the tendency that you will forget is extremely high. So I would advise that we find a way to ensure that things are jotted down, and not just jotted down, we actually have plans to action them. Don't just jot things down, have plans to action them. I know that 1 hour in your time is a lot to sacrifice. So following through after conversations like these would really make a lot of sense. So moving forward, right? What about access to economic opportunities? Access to economic opportunities like never before. We have generation where you can get job anywhere in the world. You can get job anywhere in the world. And what do I mean? You can get free gigs. You can get gigs for exchange for money. You can get gigs in Nigeria. You can get gigs outside of Nigeria. But I think the problem that we have when it comes to freelancing in Nigeria, from my experience, is that we are not honest. Majority of the people who claim to be a specialist in something do not really have the competencies to deliver. So oftentimes people will promise, get gigs, get this job, but guess what? They will not deliver. So this is part of the challenges that the industry is really facing. And guess what? If you can maintain honesty, if you can have the right conversation, you position yourself in the right way, people are likely to divide themselves to you. I've had instances where I've hired freelancers in many situations. After they finish collecting my money, they run away. They don't come back. You follow up on them, you threaten to even take them to court. They won't even respond. But sometimes when you weigh your options, sometimes as a business owner, and you feel like, okay, if I'm going to take this fellow to a station and report the case and follow up and all of that, what's it going to cost me? Can I just let it go and move on with my life? And that's what is happening. In fact, I have a list of few freelancers that when I have the right resources and I have their time, one day I am going to take up some people. So freelancers really lack the ability to be honest with their skill sets, and oftentimes promise and under deliver. So these are challenges that the industry is facing. But when you understand all of these roadblocks, it's actually a plus for you if you position yourself well. Now, let us also look at entrepreneurial tools. There are also tools that you can use to start business. I wonder why almost everybody is not doing business now. Starting a business is way easy than it used to be. Is it that you want to start selling something? Of course, you can start from the social media platforms. You don't even need to build a website or have a fancy application for yourself, but by just having a social media platform, either through your WhatsApp, either through your Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all of that, you can sell what you have. You don't need to really spend so much time building some of these things. In fact, I've had people come to me many times wanting to build e-commerce platform. The first question I get to ask them is, have you sold something before? That's the first question I do ask. Have you, this thing you're about to start selling that you want to invest so much money into, have you actually sold these things before? And out of 5 would always answer yes, and the rest is no. So several people will just have an idea, You haven't really tried out if the idea is real or if it's not, and boom, all you think is, oh, I want to have an e-commerce website. And this is one of the reasons why most people business never go online. You extremely focus more on the technology that you forget that technology is just an enabler to an existing process. Technology doesn't make any sense on its own. The same way, if somebody today give you, let's say somebody just copy a version of Instagram and give it to you, you're likely not to have anybody to use it. You're likely not to have anybody to use it. Or somebody just clone WhatsApp and give you that this is another version of WhatsApp, go and start bringing people into it. You may not be successful. And the reason is because you do not have the processes to deliver that success. So oftentimes when we look at technology, we think that technology is the solution to our problem. But in real sense, they are not. They are just processes, or they are tools that allow our processes to be easy or to be easily executed. When you understand technology like this, your approach towards advancing any technology would change. So when you have a business idea, rather than thinking about the tools, just think about the practicality. Think about what it means to sell to an actual person. Try to sell first. It is through your selling process that you understand the dynamics of your audience. You understand that perhaps you do not even need to spend so much money on a cart library or whatever. Or you may need to have your own custom payments gateway, or whatever it is. It is through life experiences that give you the right value for your customer. So if you have any idea, just start. Put it out as an entrepreneur. Use the available tools. Let those available tools trigger your next point of action, and don't follow the other way around. Don't try to more or less just focus on building an application, and at the end of the day, you don't have the market. Now, financial inclusion is also another thing. So there are also plenty of platforms that can help us accept payment. We have the Money Point, we have the Kuda, we have the likes of Flutterwave, we have the likes of Paystack. In Kenya, we have the likes of M-Pesa. We have plenty of these platforms that makes life easy for us. Platform, naturally, I can remember the very first time we tried to integrate a bank in Nigeria to an application that accepts payment. And through that, we had to meet another platform that's, in fact, if I would just mention one, I don't want to mention specific brand's name, but in like few years ago, there was just one platform that could help you pay with card. And now that platform then would charge you, as at then, almost 3 million naira to set up your payment portal. Now, after I finish this payment setup, that may take almost 6 months to integrate. Lot of documentations, lot of headache, just because you want your platform to be able to accept card. So here's the thing now. Do you believe that right now, within just 30 minutes, you can actually start accepting new payments on your application? Because there are platforms, there are new technologies that have enabled these processes to happen. So accepting payment these days is quite easy like never before. And I feel in Nigeria today, part of the limitations that we have today is actually receiving either external funding or external funds, or putting out money from Nigeria. So there's just this, when it comes to either taking your money outside of Nigeria or bringing your money back to Nigeria, there is just this difficulty right now. And with the right policy, I believe that we should be able to scale with that. Remote work is actually another access to opportunities that we have. All right. One thing I would just advise is that majority of us don't really still understand how some of these tools work. We just got on the call, make some calls, and move on. I think it will be very important that we know the limitations of each of these tools, so that you never can tell the day that you'll be called in a room, you'll be in a room to make some of these decisions. It is important that you put this into cognizance and being able to remember, so that you can be positioned as a subject expert. When it comes to having a remote call or a remote conversation, some of these tools work in several ways. Some are better than the other. The bottom line is, how do you know which is better for you? So you need to be able to understand some of these strengths and weaknesses to be able to make sense out of this. So the thing is, while technology provides remarkable access, right, the digital divide persists, right? Infrastructural limitation, affordability, and digital literacy gap remains barrier in many regions, and finding a way to addressing these challenges requires collaborations between governments, private sectors, non-profits, to ensure equitable access to some of these things. As we speak today now, some regions in Nigeria don't even have some regions in Nigeria don't have some of these basic things that you don't even imagine that a set of people shouldn't have. There are regions in Nigeria who don't have some of this access. So the divide is still there. So I don't know what is coming into your mind right now, but just have a mindset that we are up for solving a particular problem. Now, moving to the next point, which is bridging cultural divides with technology. There are a lot of things that we can actually bridge when it comes to using technology, right? So technology, when it comes to this very digital age, plays a very significant role in diverse cultural background, right? It allows us to understand, collaborate, and share experiences that more or less remove the barrier in languages, geography, and in all manner of access. And let us take a look at some of the points here. Social media actually is really helping us to remove these gray lines. Social media is helping us remove the gray line. Through social media, we're able to more or less exchange conversations regardless of where people are, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their religion, regardless of their exposure. Technology or social media platform is actually helping us to bridge one of these gaps. So somebody can be doing an event anywhere and you're able to participate. But the question I'm asking right now is, how are we making use of these very possibilities? And the fact that you can listen to me right now, I'm currently talking to you in Lagos, and we have some people listening to us outside Lagos, some people within Lagos, some people outside outskirts of Lagos. There are a lot of things that we can do with this technology, and you don't really need so much to set some of these things up. The moment you can just grab a laptop, grab a mic, or even use the mic of the system, whatever tools you need, and you can play around things, you can showcase yourself to the world. And also, translation app actually play a very huge role. Translation app play a very huge role. In fact, one of the example was in 2019 when a Japanese tourist and an Italian cafe owner, went viral just because they use translation app to exchange recipes and bond over mutual love for food. So you can imagine what this has brought us. Just the fact that I cannot speak Hausa doesn't mean that I cannot have Hausa conversation. It just means that I could just have an interpreter to be able to have conversation with such people. So if you're willing to do businesses and you think, oh, language is a barrier, come on, just grab that translation app, go to that region, speak yours. As you speak, the two get to translate, vice versa, and you're able to make sense out of it. And the cool thing about some of this technology is that they are getting better. In no time, you realize that you don't even really need to hold a phone to be able to have a conversation with somebody from another region. It could just be possible that the person will talk and immediately you're able to listen and also respond. So I think I've spoken about virtual collaboration, right? Of course, cross-border workplace. You can be in Nigeria and work anywhere. The bottom line is that are you actually up to the skill set that is required for some of these roles? And one mistake I see some people make a lot of the time is that oftentimes people seek for roles that is more than their current skill set. And I want us to deviate from that. We've gone past the era where you can really fool employers. Employers have lots of technologies at their reach right now to validate whether you are up for the role or not. Unlike before, when somebody will just listen to you and the person will feel carried away by what you're saying. Now, businesses use technology to make employment decision. So if you're lying about what you can do, and you then get to the point of defending what you can do, you're likely not to get the job. So if I want to be the head of HR, for instance, rather than just impersonating myself as head of HR, I could as well be learning about the skills and the culture to be able to make me suit that role. So don't just give yourself a position or a role without actually filling the gap to be able to meet up the challenges that is required for that role. And that's the point that we need to think of. Another thing we can also tap into is what I call global event hackathon, right? There are lots of hackathons out there. You could just think of hackathon as an avenue to build the projects alongside with other people in your line of profession. There are a lot of hackathon out there. You could just go on Google and just type your discipline hackathon. You could say maybe graphic design hackathon or financial auditors hackathon, whatever it is that you're doing. Just check it out and you'll be able to see live hackathons. Even if you're not going to win anything as a result of those hackathons, there is one thing I can guarantee you: you win knowledge. And once you win knowledge, it becomes a repository for other successes that you may not even be able to think of right now. So the path to deeper career connection obviously is not something that we can achieve at once. It's a process, right? But with technology, with technology giving us all of this opportunity to drive cultural divides, it is essential to use tools responsibly. Effort to promote digital literacy, combat misinformation, and ensure ethical AI application will enhance the positive impacts of these technologies along the way. Let us just make sure that we don't use these things wrongly. We don't use all of these tools wrongly. We ensure that we use this tool reasonably, either through the social media platform, either through the translation app, virtual opportunity to just ensure that you're using these things correctly. All right, at this point, welcome to AI Playbook once again. My name is Noah Latoye, and pretty much I want this community to grow bigger because the goal is to talk to you guys on a weekly basis to motivate you so that you stay closer to what you're about to achieve. Remember, you are what you hear, you are what you listen to. If you don't have any other platform that take your time around this time, I think it is important that you stick with me every Thursday. And aside that, I actually release tips on a daily basis where I just come up with some excerpts to help in moving things further. Now, this conversation is going to get better. What I am doing right now is talking about the fundamentals. We're going to get to a point where we go deeper into more practical level. But it is important that every of my viewers get to understand what the basics are, so that we can also have resources to reference newcomers in future so that they can find their way to start at some point. So while we are looking at the opportunity, the global space, and all of that on the theoretical part right now, there are going to come some day when we're going to be looking at some of these things in the practical light. So just stay tuned, share this with a friend, AI Playbook, share with the friends, and not just that, follow us on the group. And pretty much, I also still have a link for feedback. I also encourage feedback. So I'm just going to send a link on the group right now for those who want to ask me direct questions, or you want to send me a feedback. This is the link. You can just have that link, provide me feedback. You can ask me direct question, and it's either I provide you answer privately, or I make a sessions like this dedicated to some of those questions. So just shoot me your questions, and of course we would be on the go. All right, let's talk about solving global challenges with technology. Solving global challenges with technology. And when we talk about this, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about poverty elevation, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of things to talk about when it comes to solving global challenges with technology. So technology, of course, is very powerful, and we've been relying on it in most of our pressing issues. Climate poverty, of course, cannot be overemphasized, but the ability to consume data, quality data, can help us to mitigate some of these challenges. So just think about it. The federal government, the government at all levels, have been talking about combating crime, combating poverty, combating climate change. The bottom line is, we young mind, what are we doing to practically help in this regard? Is it in the space of creating new jobs? Would it be in the space of ending poverty, whatever it is, or the climate, there are possibilities that you can look out for. So let's look at information technology, or IoT, in climate change. When it comes to IoT in climate change, we're talking about IoT for sustainability. Precision monitoring is key, right, when it comes to climate change. So you're looking at IoT that enables real-time monitoring of environment parameters, helping to combine climate change by tracking emissions, deforestations, and resource usage. Just imagine having a smart sensors that help farmers to understand the moisturing of their land, to understand the weather, to enable them with the appropriate irrigation and reduction of water usage. This will really help a lot. Just imagine if water management is increased, if every household gets to use water that is needed and not because they have water. Some people will have their tap running. At the end of the day, all of these things amount to the global climate change challenges that we have. We also then have smart cities and energy efficiency. So imagine IoT connected devices that optimize energy consumption. Part of the problems that we have in Nigeria, is power. Electricity consumption is on the rise. This year alone, we had over 13 grid collapse, which is the highest in the nation's history. But we can have technologies that help homes to manage electricity consumption. Oh, you may ask me, what is the importance of the prepaid meter? Well, prepaid meter is just to cost you, like it's just to bill you at the end of your consumption. It doesn't really help you to regulate your usage, right? But there could be technology that can help people regulate their power consumption. That can really tell you in real time what you're consuming, what item in your house is consuming what, and how you can pre-use them in such a way that they can save you more time. And one of the ways is that organizations and even nations are being dynamic with this. Barcelona, for instance, has implemented IoT solutions that optimize waste management and energy use. They've been able to reduce carbon footprint significantly. So this is a lot. I guess that somebody have question. We'll come to question in a very short while. So we also look at healthcare. Healthcare is very important when it comes to the global challenges, solving global challenges with technology. So you can venture into healthcare too. There are lots of healthcare remote delivery right now. Telemedicine is what they call them. They have platforms that allow patients to to have remote understanding of what is wrong with them, either through video access, diagnosis, and receive prescriptions without actually traveling or going anywhere. Part of my challenges with hospitals is having gone there to wait for a doctor. It's very somehow. You just want to see a doctor and you have to wait for almost forever. And with this, telemedicines, there are a lot of opportunities there. So pretty much there are so many things that can be done. You just need to pick one aspect of everything that I'm mentioning and try it out. There's also AI in disease detection. AI now detect diseases. One of the example is demonstrated recently by Google. All right. So I've spoken about the importance of having technology to help us solve healthcare problems. Okay, so let's talk about the barriers, some of the challenges that won't just leave us alone. The barriers are there. When it comes to technology today, the challenges are just very, very enormous as well. So we have barriers that remains in every aspect of what we do. For some, it may be power. For some, it may be internet. There are just so many things that contribute to the issues that we have. And one of them is the digital divide. The challenges that we have right now is that there are a lot of divisions when it comes to this technology. The digital divide refers to the gap between those who have access to technology and the internet and those who do not have. Right? The divide exists both between and within countries. And this is actually something that is very common in education, healthcare, and even economic opportunities. Now, let's look at some statistics here. Nearly 2.7 billion people worldwide remain offline, primarily in rural areas and low-income areas as well. So there are still a lot of people who don't have access to internet. There are a lot of people who still have challenges with some of these things. And the impact is that limited access restrict individuals from participating in digital economy, accessing remote learning, and benefiting from telemedicines, and so on and so forth. Well, the people that can help us in this could be individuals like you and I. Governments can invest more in infrastructure. NGOs can actually still help more. And tech leaders can create low-cost technology solutions such as the ones that we have doing great work. And the cool thing is that in Africa, actually, for us to be really successful, we need to create technology that really understand the way we work. Lack of infrastructure is one of them. We don't really have the unique infrastructure to push some of this. The cybersecurity concern is actually one. I've heard about some telcos who have been sabotaged in the year 2023 by hackers, and some other businesses who have been thrown out of business just because they were hacked. So cybersecurity has become very, very important as well, causing threats at every level. So those are very, very important things to also look at. All right. In conclusion, when it comes to all of these things, with digital divide, infrastructural gap, cybersecurity concerns remain significant hurdles, right? They are not something we cannot solve, right? But they are still something we need to pay attention to. Through coordinated efforts and innovation, we can more or less bring all of these barriers into something that we can address and have a commonly inclusive digital future, right? The journey to truly borderless and equitable technology world depends on the collective will to bridge this divide and build systems that leave no one behind. And this is actually something that we all should be interested in. It's not something just for one person. It's something that we need to do collectively. All right, so that's pretty much the summary of what we have today. So remember, you can always be part of the conversation. So let us wrap up this session. Remember, you can always give us feedback. Please share this with a friend. And let me just do a recap. Technology as a global equalizer, bridging cultural divide, solving global challenges. The barriers that remain are things that we actually look at. So that's how we wrap it up on this one. Thank you for joining this session. I really appreciate your efforts, and looking forward to having another conversation with you. Thank you so much. And this session is meant to last for just 1 hour, and the goal is to keep it as such. Thank you so much, and we'll meet again next week. Bye-bye, guys.